I want to introduce my team. I wouldn't be up here unless I had a great team behind me, and we added some great people over the years, and we got, it looks like there's 6 empty chairs. I may have to add one more person, but Eric Jacobs, come on down. Price is Right style. Eric, as he's coming down, I'll explain. He left an unbelievable industry in auto, which has an incredible analogy to Wheels Up and to aviation. He started a dealer track when it was $2 million of top line. That's $2 million. They sold it to Cox Automotive in Atlanta for $4.5 billion. Public company CFO, 6'4", Eric Jacobs. Come on up, Eric. I met the next guy, and I said if I could ever afford him. He was a deal lawyer as a young man at SFX Entertainment, which became Live Nation, which was my first public deal. Jason Horowitz is now our COO from the University of Pennsylvania, and he also went to law school. Jason Horowitz. Come on up, Jason. Hustle up. I need a better run, a little better jog. A little stronger jog, Jason, a little stronger jog. Next up is probably the most talented offensive person in our space. He's been with me as a partner since he's in his early 20s. He's ageless. Whether it's whole aircraft, whether it's selling fractional, which we did at Marquee and NetJet cards, memberships, this guy is the Michael Jordan of sales in our space, Mr. Justin Firestone. We made an acquisition. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing. We made an acquisition this summer. The most talented tech person that I know in our space. He developed an FMS from scratch, a flight management system from scratch called Avianis. He's got over 100 operators running Avianis. He's the Oracle, the Salesforce.com of those operations, and I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're going in tech. But without further ado, Daniel Tharp of Avianis, now of Wheels Up. Come on down. Every company needs market analytics. We have a very special guy who's been with us back from our Berkshire Hathaway days, Mr. John Reed. Reed. Thanks, John. Had I known we were 6 chairs, I would have brought a 6th person down. Justin, we got one of your guys that can come up? Yeah, Randy, come on up. You'll represent Taylor. Randy, come on. Randy is in our member services. There's not a lot of flights that don't get met down here by Randy. Randy, run. Come on up. Randy was with Embraer. Mike Amalfitano, thank you for allowing us to trade for him. We gave early 2nd-round pick for Randy, and we got him. Okay. Why don't we run the video quick, and Allie, thank you again for having us. Turn the volume up. Volume up. That's the video. Just on talent, this was done on Dan's iPad last night after dinner, and Justin scored it overnight. So thanks, guys. Couple things is, first off, again, thanks for having us, and it's always a pleasure to be down here with our peers in what I believe is the most dynamic industry in the world, private aviation. We sell the sexiest product in the world. Thank you to all the OEMs that are here. To the sexiest people in the world, the people that are the movers and the shakers, whether they're high net worth folk or whether they're businesses, we enable what they do. And I think, 2019 has been an unbelievable year for Wheels Up. We were able to complete, this is last 90 days, so we're a little tired, but we're still going hard. August 9th, we announced a fundraise that was led by a new investor, Franklin Templeton. They led T. Rowe Price, or co-led with T. Rowe Price and Fidelity. We closed on a Class D, is that right, Jason? Class D? $128.5 million, valuing the business at 1.1, which again, it doesn't mean anything what your business is valued unless you can monetize it or have your investors get liquid, but it's nice when you get up on stage or when you're talking to people at a restaurant. So that's positive. Number two is, I've mentioned the acquisition of Avianis. I look at that acquisition very similar. We have a member of Google's founding team on our board, Tim Armstrong, and he likened the Avianis purchase and partnership to one that really put Google in business, which was their purchase of DoubleClick. They were number 13 out of 13 in search engines when Tim joined the firm. They used to tell everybody they were in the top 20. So they were last, but they were in the top 20. And DoubleClick really enabled them from a technological foundational perspective to become Google. So that's really exciting, Dan. It's great to have you up. The other deal that we did, he's not here. He's actually servicing many folks' lift in a room, is we purchased Elkhart, Indiana TMC, Travel Management. So we've had three big sort of transformational deals that we've done this year, and we have two or three more that we're hoping that we can complete in the next, call it half a year, to put the last, sort of chess pieces together for what will give us, over $1 billion of top line and the scale that we believe that we need to be a public company or partner with one. So very exciting times. I'm going to flip through a couple of slides. I'm not a deck person, but we do have decks now that we're starting to roll a little bit. We have some decks. So I'm going to flip through a couple of pages on really strategy. But if you ask me what we need to do as a room together, what do we need to do up together? We need to violently move the TAM in our business. The TAM. What's the TAM? Ali, what's the TAM? It's Ali says the addressable market, but for everybody here, it's the addressable market. How big is the addressable market for private aviation? And when I look to companies like Uber, and we have a copy of Travis's deck that we look at every once in a while, Travis Kalanick laid out a plan that, first off, he said he wanted to be the NetJet of private aviation, of car servicing. The addressable market for taxi and limousine in 2009, which is only 10 years ago, was $11 billion in the United States. Today it's $200 billion. So he got more people in the pyramid. I think collectively as a business, I'd be far stretched to say that there's 100,000 people in businesses that we're servicing today. What Wheels Up is trying to do is we want to service 10, 50, 100 times that group. And we'll talk about that a little later in the deck on how we can kind of do that together. There's going to be a lot of cooperation to get that done, and a lot of hard work. But it can be done. Key is the smartphone. And without further ado, John, how do we flip the next thing? Hey, why don't you come here and click them for me? Okay, you got it, Jay? Eric? Slide, John. Okay, I'm going to tell you what the next slide is while the guys get there. In 2013, come on, let's see. What's up here? In 2013, we decided to partner up with Textron Aviation, and Textron had an airplane, it was Beechcraft at the time, called the King Air 350i. And the initial thought was very, very simple. is 80% of flights in North America are less than 2 hours in length, and 85% of flights in Western Europe are less than 2 hours in length. So instead, let's start off with an airplane that services the less than 2 hour flyer in a way that that flyer has never been serviced before. So what do we do? Hold on one second here. Hit it. This is what happens when your sponsorship check doesn't clear. All right, here we go. Stand next to me if you don't mind. Could you come on up? Just over here. Over here. What's your name? Alex. Alex. Thank you. Okay. I'll just signal you when we're going. Okay. Everybody give Alex a hand. He didn't plan on this. Hold on. I'm going to have you talk to our HR right after this. We need some more tech people. Okay. All right. So in 2013, we saw futures that others didn't. We talked about the short term. King Air, we dropped a $1.4 billion order on Beechcraft. I would say that that's proof that a man's net worth or a company's net worth is clearly not what he or the company has, it's how much they can borrow. So we got ourselves into business, and we wanted to sort of look to be more Netflix than NetJets. We want a membership model. I don't believe that the ownership schemes that are happening in our industry are going to service the masses. I don't think that we move the TAM, the addressable market, by getting more people into fractional. I think that fractional benefits, if we can get 1 million people up in the air, fractional is going to have a very natural set of people that like flying privately, that trade makes sense for them. But again, I believe that the membership model is going to be the one that's going to bang the TAM and get 1 million people moving in our space. Again, with respect to Pat Gallagher and all the NetJet people that used to be my partners, we like that you're up here. You represent sort of the four seasons of the space. We want to be Airbnb. Next slide. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So what do we have today? We have 119 owned aircraft. We have a partner fleet that's safety vetted and verified. Remember this slide, the safety vetted and verified fleet of 1250. That will go to 12,500, hopefully, by the next 5 years or 7 years, if there are 12,500 planes that have the ability to be safety vetted and verified to our standards. We want to become a total aviation solution. So in the beginning, we were just King Airs and Citation XLs and Citation 10s. We want to deliver everything in the space to everybody. So when we think about that little bullet, we think about Amazon. Amazon was a book business until about 9 years ago. Today, the books represent 4.3% of Amazon's top line. Their books are our King Airs. Hopefully one day, Allie, 4.3% of our top line is our King Air. Leading brand. I think we're good at branding. We got Russell Wilson last night. They're talking about MVP. He's one of our equity investors. So when you get the ambassadors to be equity investors, forget getting them just to be members, then you don't have to ask them to do anything. You tell them, hey, you own the business. You got to show up here or there. You got to be in the video. You got to be in the commercial. We've been lucky enough to have folks like Russell and Serena and Tom Brady and longtime partners of ours come in and really truly be our partner, not just brand ambassadors, but having ownership in the company. We've sold 7,500 memberships today, and we have that enterprise value that we talked about of $1.1 billion. So what are we going to do to bang the TAM? Connect membership. How many people in this room could afford a $2,000 to $3,000 a year membership to get you access to the wheels-up airplanes that are making empty moves, that are making what we call next moves? So if a plane needs to be, there's planes, by the way, today on the ground in Miami that need to move north. If you could get, for DOC, a couple of $1,000 an hour, a group of 4 or 5 people together, you're probably not more expensive than a commercial business class ticket up to New York. Those next moves, they're not available today, but the smartphone is going to geolocate those airplanes and people, and with a couple of $1,000 a year membership, everybody's going to have access to that. Digital charter marketplace. We're actually doing stuff without human hands. The way I clumsily have my partner here flipping the slides, we've actually done hundreds and hundreds of digital bookings without any human hands touching them. We're plugged into our own system. We're plugged into probably 20 or 30 vendors that are putting their schedule up into our scheduling software today. People can hit 3 buttons on their smartphone, actually get a quote, confirm it, and nobody touches anybody. We just crossed $5 million today in digital bookings that don't touch human hands. I could see that being 100 times bigger, not too deep into the future, 12, 24, 36 months. We talked about this. Let's go to the next one. Okay, these are the same. I think we were out of sync before, but we're okay. On-demand culture. There's no question in my mind we are the last business in the world that is not doing its business, its front end, on a smartphone. Show me another retail business that has retail customers that aren't transacting on their smartphone. Real estate, food, car services, vacations, gambling. There's no banking. There's not a business out there that doesn't use the smartphone. Thank you to Steve Jobs and company. The iPhone is only 12 years old. Does everybody know it's only 12 years old? It's the #1 consumer product ever produced on the planet Earth. So pretty amazing that we're sitting here. Ali, if there was a conference 13 years ago, there would have been no iPhones. But now there's a lot of iPhones, and that's the connective tissue that's going to connect our industry in a way that's going to make our TAM 100 times bigger than it is today. Next slide. Platforms. Amazon, Uber, Netflix. There's not a lot that I have to say about this slide outside of that our industry clearly deserves a brand and a distribution system that is equal to and as top of mind as those three. Again, we're in the most aspirational in the business in the world. I can tell you from my background in sociology at the University of Wisconsin, and I always disclaim a 2.8 at Wisconsin with a 1050 on the SAT, and it took me 5 years and 5 summers to graduate, so I don't have a lot of the scholastic muscle, but I would say the study of people, what I did learn at University of Wisconsin and post that, is that humans are hardwired to want to fly privately. If you dropped a human that didn't know anything in New York City and pointed them to Teterboro or LaGuardia, they would go to Teterboro. Humans are hardwired to fly privately. So we think that our brand and surely our industry deserves to have a big platform. This is the multi-billion-dollar question. We believe that the TAM is millions strong. When we look at wealth in America, you know, what are the numbers? Who are we talking about? 2 million households, 2 million families, 2 million people have private aviation money. And when I say what's private aviation money, what's the bottom, what's the Uber X of our space? You know, could those 2 million people spend $10,000 or $15,000 a year, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year in our space if we had a product for them? The answer is yes, and the answer is whether it's buy the seat, the answer is whether it's picking up a next move flight or an empty leg, the answer is if you're able to crowdsource stuff and fly people from New York to Nantucket less than JetBlue does from LaGuardia at $700, $800 a seat. Yes, the private aviation TAM is 2 million, and if you took 100,000 people and they spend $10,000 each, there's $1 billion for you right there. We know with 6,000 members, we're generating almost a $450 million run rate. So you know at 80 or 90 or 100,000, you can get the top tier moving. But there's plenty of room between folks that spend 100 grand a year, which is really what the entry level is today in our space. We saw a great presentation from Sentient. We have others out there that service that space like we do. And I would say, though, the key is getting 1 million people and maybe a couple 100,000 of them to transact $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year. And then we talk about the private flying lifestyle. We talked about humans being hardwired. I always like to ask this question because I love Ralph Lauren and what he did to create the lifestyle he created. There was a young guy from the Bronx, and he created this polo. Everybody, who has a polo item? Ali, you do? Who owns something polo, or somebody in their family owns something polo? Real show of hands. Even a home collection item, something that Ralph created. Okay. I would say, how many people that had their hands up actually played polo? Ali. Ali's a one-goaler in polo, but he's a player. That's a lifestyle brand. Nike, that's a lifestyle brand. Not everybody who wears Nike here is a professional athlete or is knocking personal bests around. Private aviation is something that all of humanity, in my view, wants to be part of. I like to tell students when they allow me to speak at schools, whether it's junior high, high school, or college, they ask, how much money do I need to have to fly privately? I said, don't worry about it. You're one deal away from flying privately. One successful deal away, and then you're flying privately. So I just think you have an unbelievable aspirational opportunity. When you look at the great luxury brands of the world, I know we have some Europeans in the room, and Europe was the foundation of the Gucci's and the Pradas and the unbelievable Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton and Prada and all of these great luxury brands have figured out a way to bring their brands to the world. What does that mean? It means when you go into a city, you can buy a keychain from Prada or a scarf from Hermes for a couple $100. It means everybody can touch their brand and get their special box. Hermes is the orange box. You see little kids running around with that stuff. They get a bracelet for a couple $100. That's aspirational branding, and that's how you explode a TAM. We believe that the private flying lifestyle, meanwhile, let's talk about the world. There's people still running around, myself included, that wear polo here. I mean, that does feel 1980s and 1990s to me at best. But private flying lifestyle, that's something that we think has an unbelievable, sort of forward place in the world to be, and we want to bring it to the world from an aspirational perspective. Next. Engaged community. Once you have trust, and our industry has more trust than anybody. We have people that walk up to the planes, they turn left, and they don't worry about it. The safety record in our space collectively, I mean, that's something that we all should be proud of, from the manufacturers to the folks on the legal side. We don't have any regulatory stuff in our space that anybody worries about. FAA and DOT do an unbelievable job. It's unlike the Airbnbs and the Ubers. They're still fighting, are our employees 1099? Are they W-2? Can you stay and put your apartment up on Airbnb if you live in New York City? We don't have any of that stuff. We have incredible trust. So what do you have to do, again, to expand the TAM and expand the spend in our space? You need frequency. We need to figure out productization that creates a lot more frequency on our collective product. And again, how do you get frequency? You keep people engaged. You got to engage people. That's the world. Next slide. Talked about the iPhone. We think it's all going to happen there. What's the big vision? People have laid it out for us already. Has anybody in this room made a reservation on Open Table? Open Table, Open Table, Open Table, Open Table. All right. Open Table, Airbnb, when we think about Hotel Tonight, what do those companies really do? Everything is very tech and sexy and all that other stuff. What do they really do? They're revenue management tools for operators, for people that own assets. So let's break down, or let's unpack Open Table for a second. A very smart tech entrepreneur said, I'm going to give away what Daniel Tharp sells as a SaaS model today. We'll give it away in some version. We're going to give away software to every restaurant in America that, by the way, has safe food. Give me an A rating. I don't want to drive you to a B-rated or a C-rated restaurant. So we're going to give away software, and all you have to do for that software is feed that software real-time inventory availability in your restaurant. That's all you need to do. We'll do the rest. We'll go promote the name Open Table. We'll get rating systems going. We'll make it so easy that anybody who's working your place, as long as that inventory comes off the board, that doesn't happen on Open Table, so we don't get confusion when people walk in at 8 o'clock to the restaurant. Then you have an unbelievable ecosystem that's powered by technology and a great front-end brand. And who wins? The restaurant's cost of acquisition for that person who's going to sit and have dinner has gone down dramatically. They basically are laying off their sales and marketing to a third party, and they don't have to worry about greasing the folks that work as concierge in the hotels. It's all done for them. And I think for our space to do that, I think it's a layup. Again, it's been done before. 2.8 at Wisconsin, 1050 on the SAT. With the right team behind me, I think we can do that. Next. Experience. The average flyer in our space that's a high net worth individual is less than 50 hours. Not a question. Probably today, 25 to 50, and it's going to go down dramatically if you start focusing on that 5 and 10 hour flyer that probably is 10x the market size of a flyer today at 25 to 50. So the 5 to 10 market, which is a market we're really excited about, because 5 to 10 in our world is 25 to 50,000 bucks a year. We'll take a few 100,000 of those people. So we feel like we got to do a great job in the other 8,700 plus hours that they're not flying. Super Bowl, Masters, and Art Basel down here in Miami. We have a laundry list of events that we do, over 100 a year for our members, some of them not as big and more intimate, where we have our members congregating. We're trying to give them unbelievable content, things that are interesting to them, and that's what a membership experience is for us. And the good news is people who are flying, I want to say 10 hours or more, are retaining at about 90%. So we have an unbelievable retention for people that are only flying, call it 50, 60 grand a year. I think a lot of that has to do with the membership experience that we wrap into what we call a Wheels Up membership. That's like our Wheels Up Prime. That's our equivalent of free shipping. Next. The best way to predict the future is simple, just invent it. Thank you, Alan Kay. That's what we're trying to do here. I want to thank my partners for sitting up here. I said to them, we got the empty chairs. If you ever watch a State of the Union, they got like a few people, 4 or 5 people in the back that just kind of stand there. So I figured that would be a great look for the backdrop here rather than just look at the things. So thank you to my partners there. And most important, as I said, thank you to Ali and everybody in the industry. We love this industry. Any way that you think that we can partner with you to go bang the TAM from the 100,000 or so participants to a couple of million. We'll do that with the hats, the sweatshirts, and all the other stuff. We'll go get the rest of the world on the aspirational lifestyle stuff. So thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any questions, we'll take them. We think Russell Wilson is playing MVP level football. He's one of our people. He did a great job last night, kept us all up. We'll take questions for anybody here on any topic. Doesn't have to be aviation. Great restaurants.
Any questions? Do you know, I think you've answered everyone's questions. Okay, finally, from Slido. Which one of those? I think we've only got time for one, Kenny.
Let me pick one there. Are you concerned that as you democratize the TSA will start? I'm not over concerned about TSA. Our industry in 135 has a great TSA program. It's enforced, at the airplane level. We have to be very, very careful. We now have 7,000 members and 30 or 40,000 people that fly with those lead passengers. So, we take the TSA very, very seriously. I don't see machines and things that are going to make it as cumbersome as commercial. But again, I'm a big fan of TSA, and I think that the screening that we all need to do as an industry to make sure it's safe is critical, but I'm not worried about it. How does TMC fit into the model and customer experience? Okay, TMC, we were their largest customer. We felt like we needed to protect ourselves in the industry. We didn't think that it was an incredibly stable situation. And if you're reliant like we are and were on TMC, we wanted to bring them in. What we did is we spoke before we purchased TMC to the top 10 customers that were using TMC as a wholesale operator. And we just made sure that they knew that we were going to keep the data integrity, the customer integrity in absolute place. And I'm happy to report that all 10 of TMC's top customers are using that fleet every day. And again, this goes into coopetition. If somebody could figure out a way on the 50 or 100 days a year that we could squeeze in another 5, 6 King Air flights without disturbing the membership model, come see us after this and we'll buy you a prize.
Okay, final question. IPO. What's the plan?
Say it again?
What's the IPO plan?
What's an IPO?
No, what is your plan for an IPO?
What is the plan? Okay. IPO, I got a couple of lawyers behind me, 3 or 4, initial public offering. I would say a couple things. One is, Ali, we got the right investors. We got patient, long-term capital in T. Rowe Fidelity and Franklin. And ultimately, they think when the time is right, there's no pressure on us. When the time is right and the market is right and our scale is right, they think we'll be a very, very dynamic public company. I mean, look, we're already running at $450 million in top line, and I don't even think we're out of first gear. I think the key is, can everybody in the room, we have 3 buckets of revenue, so simple. One is we have the membership model, which is the Costco, Amazon Prime, that bucket. The average member spending in dues, $8,500 a year to stay in. We're doing 50, 60 million bucks of forward run rate revenue just in the membership bucket. Everybody loves that bucket from a Wall Street perspective. Find me a good membership model. And by the way, we're a subscription commerce model, meaning Netflix, you pay $12.99 a month, and you just pay the $12.99, you get as much as you want. Ours, you pay $8,500 a year for the right to spend 80,000 bucks. So it's a subscription commerce model, powerful. We have our fleet revenue, that 120 airplanes, Ali, we talked about. It's a few $100 million bucks. I would say that's our most mortal, M-O-R-T-A-L, that's our most mortal revenue. The immortal revenue in our space is what we're chasing, which is the billions of dollars of revenue, which is taking airplanes that people in the room are operating and making them more efficient. We talked about Uber in 2009. Uber in New York City today has changed the way utility and efficiency work. Taxi cabs in New York that you hail like this, they have a fare in the back of them 35% of the time, and they're chasing a fare 65% of the time. Uber, with the geolocation of technology and humans, is full 65% of the time and empty 35% of the time. If we could apply some of those dynamics to the third-party fleet, which is all of our fleet, the collective world fleet, Ali, 10, 15, 20,000 airplanes, and we figured out ways to put demand on them where the demand should be, that third bucket of revenue, which I would call, we call it today flight desk revenue, it's off-fleet revenue. I would say very simply the way that Wall Street views it is show me how you can organize, automate, and digitize the space and figure out a way for assets that aren't on your balance sheet, show me how you can monetize those like Airbnb. That to me makes a business like Wheels Up and probably some consolidation in the room, that makes us a $10, $20 billion cap. And if we throw a good Super Bowl party, maybe even more. But I think the IPO plan is probably 12, 18, 24 months out, something like that, Eric? Something in that neighborhood? Yeah, I think that's when we want to do it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And you also get the record for by far the most people on stage for an individual presentation.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.